the youngest prisoner in the world and what he did. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that's shocking and heartbreaking. We're talking about the youngest prisoner in the world, one of the youngest ever documented, and what he did to end up behind bars. This isn't just a crime story, it's a look at how society handles kids who commit unthinkable acts. Hit that like button, and let's get into it. When we think of prisoners, we usually picture adults, people who've had time to make choices and face the consequences. But what happens when a kid, someone barely old enough to tie their shoes properly, ends up in prison? Today, we're focusing on a case that stunned the world, Lionel Tate. At just 12 years old, he became one of the youngest people in modern U.S. history to be sentenced to life in prisons. What did he do? Let's break it down. It all started on July 28, 1999, in Broward County, Florida. Lionel Tate was a 12-year-old kid living a pretty typical life. Until that day, he was at home with his mom, Kathleen Grosset Tate, who was babysitting a little girl named Tiffany Unick. Tiffany was just 6 years old, full of energy, and the two kids were downstairs playing while Kathleen was upstairs. At some point, things got loud, and Kathleen yelled down for them to quiet down. No big deal, right? Kids being kids. But about 45 minutes later, Lionel came upstairs with chilling news. Tiffany wasn't breathing. What happened next would unravel into a nightmare. Tiffany had bruises all over her body, her legs, feet, neck, and doctors later found she'd suffered fractured skull and internal injuries. The cause? Lionel had beaten her. He later claimed he was just playing, mimicking wrestling moves he'd seen on TV shows like WWF SmackDown. But the damage was devastating. Tiffany didn't survive. Now, here's where it gets messy. Lionel was charged with first-degree murder, not as a kid, but as an adult. At 12 years old, he was facing the full weight of the legal system. Prosecutors argued that the injuries weren't an accident. They were too severe, too intentional. Lionel's defense? He said he didn't mean to kill her, but inspired by pro wrestling. But the jury didn't buy it. In 2001, at age 13, Lionel was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. A kid who couldn't even drive was told he'd die in prison. This case wasn't just a headline. It sparked a firestorm. People asked, how do you punish a kid this young? Some saw Lionel as a monster, a danger to society. Others saw a confused child who didn't grasp the consequences of his actions. Critics pointed out that the U.S. was one of the only countries sentencing kids this young to life without parole, something banned by international laws like the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which, fun fact, the U.S. still hasn't fully signed on to. Lionel's sentence got so much attention that even Pope John Paul II weighed in, calling for mercy. And here's a twist. The prosecution had offered a plea deal, 3 years in a juvenile facility plus probation, but Lionel's family turned it down, hoping for a better outcome at trial. Big gamble, big loss. But the story doesn't end there. In 2004, an appeals court overturned Lionel's life sentence, ruling it was too harsh for a kid his age. He was released after serving about 3 years. His freedom, though, didn't last long. In 2005, Lionel got caught up in trouble again, armed robbery this time, and by 2006, he was back in prison, sentenced to 30 years for violating probation. Today, he's still behind bars, a far cry from that 12-year-old boy in 1999. So, is Lionel the youngest prisoner ever? It's tough to say from around the world. While some claim even younger kids, like 11-month-olds in extreme cases, have been detained, though usually with family. But Lionel's case stands out because of that life sentence at 12. And he's not alone. Kids as young as 11, like Nathaniel Abraham, who shot a man in Michigan in 1997, or 13, like Evan Miller, convicted of murder in Alabama, have faced adult prisons too. It raises a big question. Where's the line between justice and cruelty? That's it for today's deep dive. What do you think? Should kids like Lionel get a second chance, or do some crimes outweigh age? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild stories like this. Hit that bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.